Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Nate the Great coming to you live from the All Sports All Plays Network. Um, Today's show, Thursday night post game show, is being brought to you by Suzanne's Paparazzi's Jewelry. All products are lead and nickel. All products are $5. A special offer from ASAP Sports viewers: free matching earrings when you buy a necklace. Order now at paparazziaccessories.com. And the promo code is 160920. So, the game has just finished, like right now. The final score is 31-13. That shocked me. I don't know about you, but that shocked me. It wasn't just the game itself that shocked me. It's some of the things that I found out. One of them being
Sorry, guys, I hit the wrong
button. One of those surprising things, other than the game, is that Miami hasn't had a starting quarterback that made it to the Pro Bowl since Dan Marino.
Wow.
I mean, that I didn't know that until like just that game. So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's crazy. I would have thought they had a quarterback that would have started in the Pro Bowl. Although some players don't think that, or do think that Pro Bowl doesn't really matter. It kind of does. It kind of shows on your resume, sort of a resume-like thing that you're a talented player.
Yeah, I get that, but look at who the Dolphins quarterbacks have been since Dan Marino.
That's true.
Like, name one that should have made the Pro Bowl. There isn't been one. And you forget about another team that hasn't had a Pro Bowl quarterback in forever also, and that's the Bills.
Yeah.
The Bills haven't really had a Pro Bowl quarterback since, Jim Kelly?
Yeah, I would think that.
Some people might argue that 1 year that Miami made the playoffs and lost against Pittsburgh, Ryan Tannehill could have gone to the Pro Bowl. I can understand that argument, but that year I wouldn't agree with it. This year probably, maybe, but that year I wouldn't have agreed with it. Do you guys see the same way?
Well, but if you're going to go off 1 year that they made the playoffs and lost, then Chad Hutchinson was their quarterback and made it to the playoffs, so he should be in the Pro Bowl. And let's see who else. There was a year that Jay Fiedler was their quarterback, and they made the playoffs. So should he be in the Pro Bowl too?
I see what you're saying there. So to talk about that game, the final was 31-13. For the Miami side, Ryan Fitzpatrick out Minshew'd the Minshew, Gardner Minshew. He threw 2 touchdowns, and then they ran for another additional 2 touchdowns. They kicked the field goal a little bit late in the game. While Jacksonville tried to kick for it, they probably knew that they weren't going to win. Otherwise, they would have gone for 2. They went for it, and they got the extra point, and then they didn't get the extra point the second time.
Okay, but don't forget that they also just put their starting kicker from the beginning of the year, Josh Lambo. He just went on IR like yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
So their kicker literally came in and started kicking yesterday at practice.
Not a lot of time to warm up.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Chris, did you have Miami in this game or did you have Jacksonville?
I can't. I would probably have to say Miami. I can't remember who I chose, but I would have to say Miami only because you had Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, and then you have Gardner Minshew over in Jacksonville, who's in his second year as being a quarterback, and technically he started a full year. Last week was a full year of playing since he
No.
won.
Next week will be. He's 7-8 now. He's only started 15 games.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah. But still, I mean, almost a full year. He's still learning. And you have Fitzpatrick, who had 16 years experience with many teams.
Many teams.
Yeah.
You know, Fitzpatrick, I believe I saw it last year, a stat that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns in a game with 5 different teams.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. So think about that for a minute. Like, he's done that for 5 different teams. That's why they call it Fitzmagic. But hey, I got a question, Nate. I got a question for you and Chris. Something that I was thinking of tonight. So now that Miami's won a game and Fitzmagic works, does that keep Tua off the field a little longer?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we're going to see how well Miami does this next game. I mean, I can't remember who they play off the top of my head, but if he does well this next game, I mean, I can't see why not. They keep Fitzpatrick for a little while. So
as they switch over to Jacksonville and look at Minshew, everyone's going to come down on him like it's his fault. But the guy's working with no running back, per se. Like, he's got a rookie back there. And again, he hasn't even started a full season's worth of games yet. But, you know, coming into this game, he was only one of 6 quarterbacks since the beginning of 2019 that had a touchdown to interception ratio of 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, or better than that, since 2019. Only one of 6. And 4 of the 5 guys above him are all MVP quarterbacks.
Wow.
So we asked this question a little while later, a couple of shows ago, we asked if Jacksonville, with Gardner Minshew doing as well as he did the past couple of games, does this say a lot about Gardner Minshew? Well, after seeing what happened in this game, can the opposite happen? Do you see the opposite? Does this not say very much about him?
I thought he played well. I mean, he was out with a lot of players, and then you lose your left tackle to probably when a fumble happened, he kind of moved the ref's hand out of the way, and the ref really didn't like it. I don't know, and he ejected him. So now you're out with one of your key pieces to protect him, and then you're out several other players. I thought he played pretty well.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I thought you were done, Chris. My bad.
No, you're good. I thought he played well though. Go ahead.
And I'll agree with Chris on that. Like, I don't think it's Gardner Minshew's fault at all. I mean, I won't say it all. I mean, you know, you need to make some throws. You're a professional quarterback. You got to make a couple throws that were there. But still, you look at it and you look at the game, and like Chris said, you lose your left tackle. It doesn't matter if you have the best backup left tackle in football. Like, you're used to one guy being there in practice and all the games, and so then he's out of the game, and all of a sudden you got some guy coming in who you don't have reps with. I mean, that's going to throw you off a little bit. So
Yeah. So James. So James Robinson, I think that's his name, from Jacksonville's starting running back. He ran for the 3 consecutive games. He ran 1 rushing touchdown. Now, last season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they only ran for 3 rushing touchdowns that entire season. So does that say a lot about James Robinson?
I mean, yeah, but again, it's about reps. So you try to throw a guy in there that hasn't had reps. I mean, he's not gonna play good. But Robinson's not a terrible quarterback. He's just a rookie. So
Running back.
yeah, I mean, he's just a rookie. But yeah, I think it's promising. I think it looks good for them.
I think he'll probably make more rushing touchdowns this year, considering that was his first one. It wasn't towards the end of the season.
So if there was one thing, and I'm going to start with Jacksonville first since they lost, there's one thing that they should probably work on to improve on for the next game. What should it be?
They got to work on their defense. I think for sure. Their secondary is pretty bad. I don't want to use the word bad, but I mean their secondary is definitely susceptible, and you saw that in that game. I think Fitzpatrick had how many incompletions? 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, receivers are open, and quarterbacks are hitting them, and that's Fitzpatrick, who's not a terrible quarterback. I don't want to say that, but he's he's not an elite quarterback. But imagine Jacksonville going against a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson or and Aaron Rodgers. Like, what are they going to do to that defense?
He will next week. He plays Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
no,
and that's
Miami. Excuse me. That's Miami. Excuse me.
But I'm just saying, like, what are those quarterbacks going to do to a defense like Jacksonville? So that's where they need work for sure. I mean, their offense didn't look terrible.
Jacksonville does need work on defense. When you score 31 points, or the other team scores 31 points, and you only scored, I think it was like 14.
13.
13. You need help on defense. I don't know where they're going to get the help, but they're going to need it. And I don't think a lot of teams really had faith on Fitzpatrick starting at all. That's why he's been such a journeyman throughout his time in the league.
Well, and so look at this. Also, is that for Miami, Byron Jones was out. He's by far their best corner. He was out in the game. So if you put him in the game, Jacksonville, they might have kept him to 1 touchdown or kept him scoreless. So that's something else to look at too. Like, I honestly think if Miami can get their quarterback situation figured out, they're not as bad of a team as everyone's making them out to be.
I mean, yeah. I would especially say the defense, especially in their first drive. Jacksonville has allowed a touchdown every single first drive in all 3 games they played, including against the Indianapolis Colts. Now moving on, flip over to Miami. J-Mac, you kind of answered it already, saying the quarterback. But what is that one place that they need to improve on because they play the Seahawks next week?
Well, I'll give you another one. I mean, the quarterback might be fine, but you have to figure out what you're doing at running back. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a guy like Jordan Howard, and you've handed him the ball 5 times or less in all 3 games this year. Like, come on. You traded for this guy for a reason. And you can't, you can't just not hand him the ball. I get Gaskin was on, but he was really only on the first drive. You can't have a guy like Howard and just not get him the ball. That's not going to work. Especially when you have a receiver like Devontae Parker, who I think is a very underrated receiver, by the way. I don't think he gets the credit he should.
Well, I mean, you could start Tua next week if you wanted to, only because you're going up against a quarterback like Russell Wilson, who's almost. I mean, they're skilled in their own way. Both of them are, but they're almost like the same player in that they can both run the ball, pass the ball, and do different stuff. So, I mean, if you want an even match, you could go with Tua next week.
Yeah, but I mean, Tua is a rookie for one, and for two, is he at 100% yet? Because he did have those injuries coming into the season. So I don't know if he's not 100% for me. I don't start him because, let's face it, you're probably going to lose against Seattle. So, do you really want to throw him into the fire and have him get sacked 5 times and then be done for the year?
I wouldn't. So let's now flip it onto the opposite side and talk about the some of the positives. What was that one positive thing? We're going to give it to Miami first. What was that one positive thing that you think really helped Miami pulling off that win?
Well, I think they played well as a team. I think that they had Ryan Fitzpatrick's back in this game, and you could tell they came together as a team. They said, we can win this game, and they showed that. So, and I think that's big. I think their defense stepped up, made a couple of key stops that they needed to not have it be a complete, shootout. So, I don't know. I think defensively and they just played well as a team.
So while you were gone for a little bit, I asked the question. What was that one positive thing that you considered that helped Miami pull off the win?
I thought Fitzpatrick's a couple of his rushing touchdowns. He's not really known for rushing, running for touchdowns. I mean, he's done it, but I think that's what helped.
Yeah, that's true.
Most quarterbacks his age don't.
Now, okay, so what about for Jacksonville? Even though they lost, what was that one thing that you considered helped Jacksonville pull off that win?
Well, I think that Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew, I know he hasn't started a full season yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Like, it's not like he's, 2-14 in his starts. He's right around 500, which isn't great, but it's not terrible either. So he gives them a chance to win. He can make some plays. He can run. It's not like he just stands in the pocket and throws the ball. So I think that the chemistry that he's building with Keelan Cole and DJ Chark is definitely helping that team.
Okay. So now moving on, let's talk about both teams in the future. We're going to start with Miami first. Like we've said already, they play against Seattle next game on the 4th. And then on the 11th, they play against the San Francisco 49ers. Then they play against the Broncos. And then they play the Chargers. And then they play the Rams. How would you expect them to go the next 5 games?
I think they have very winnable games against the Broncos. And you said the Chargers, I think, in there. I think those are 2 winnable games for them. But I see them taking it or hurt. So I'd say somewhere around 3-2, 2-3 coming out of those 5 games. So I'd put some, like 4-5 or right in that area after 9 games.
I'm thinking
Sorry,
2 and 3.
it'd be 8 games. So I don't know what, 4-4, 3-5, right in there.
So Chris, before you explain your comment, Robert Leader said Parker and the running back helped. J-Mac, what's your thought on that?
I think Devontae Parker's an underrated receiver. I've already said that. But I also think that, the running back helped, but you got to get it into the hands of Jordan Howard. Like, how much better would you be if you get into a playmaker like Jordan Howard?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely the running back, tonight. Gaskin was good, but I think you gotta get Howard going more too.
Chris?
I would agree. But I also think that Jacksonville and Miami would go at least 2 and 3 in their next 5 games, only because you got the Rams, 49ers, and Seattle, which are 3 good teams. I mean, all of the 5 teams are good, but those are the top 3 teams out of the 5. It's 50-50, but right now I don't see them winning those.
I cannot see them winning against Seattle, and I cannot see them winning against the Rams. But I can see it being the other way too. I can see Miami lose the next 5 games. They play against the Chargers, who might start Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert did. You're forgetting that Justin Herbert did pretty well against Kansas City.
Right, but you're also forgetting that he wasn't supposed to. He wasn't supposed to play. It was supposed to be Tyrod Taylor. And I know right. I'm not taking anything away from his start. Don't get me wrong. I am not. I am not saying he didn't play a good game, because he did. And he deserves all the kudos in the world. Your first start, you go out 300 yards. Like, you put your team in a position to win. And I understand that. And I'm not arguing that fact. But all I'm saying is Kansas City was not prepared to play Justin Herbert, who's a pocket passer.
That's true.
They were prepared to play Tyrod Taylor until 10 minutes. You don't have a chance. You don't have time to change your defense to now go against a pocket passer and Justin Herbert. So yeah, he had a good game, but they weren't prepped for him.
And when you send your team or get your team to overtime in your first start against a Super Bowl winning quarterback and an NFL MVP as well as a Super Bowl MVP, you lose, but that's still pretty good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna let you guys finish the show. I gotta run, but it was fun, guys.
All
right. See ya. Okay.
Show.
Thanks. So that was J-Mac out west. So we covered the next five games going on for Miami, and then we're going to talk about the Jacksonville for the next 5 games. So let's flip over to Jacksonville here. They play against the Cincinnati Bengals next, which I think should be an easy win. And then they play against the Houston Texans, and then they play Houston is the home team. Then they play against Detroit, and then they play against the Chargers, and then they play against the Texans again. How many of those can you see Jacksonville winning?
I think they'll split Houston 1-1.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you'll have fans in Houston. I mean, each team has their own rules and stances on that, but as of right now, no fans in the stands in Houston. But Jacksonville, they do have fans, so that one will be split. Cincinnati, you have a rookie quarterback who's led the team almost in victories, even though they came short. But and you kind of have two rookie quarterbacks in a way going at it. Maybe Cincinnati would win it, and then possibly your other 3 games you could probably win, or other 2 games, I should say.
Robert Leader says 2 out of 5. So I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. I'm assuming you're talking about Jacksonville there. But yeah, I can see 2 out of 5. I say, I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. But yeah, no, 2 out of 5. I agree with that because I can see a split series with Houston. So yeah, 3 out of 5. They play Cincinnati. I think they're gonna win that. They play against Houston. I think they're gonna lose the first Houston matchup against Houston. I think they'll beat Detroit. They might beat the Chargers depending on who is starting at quarterback. And then they play a home game against Houston, which Jacksonville has fans at their stadium. I can see Jacksonville winning that game 5 easily. Do you agree?
I do. I think any team that has fans in the stands at home kind of has an advantage because you have the crowd on your side. It kind of feels weird going in without fans.
Yeah. And just a clarification, Robert, he said yeah, they beat Cincy and the Chargers. Which I can see that. But that really depends on who they play at quarterback. I could see maybe Justin Herbert. I mean, he did really well in week 1. I agree with J Mac's statement, but that's still kind of impressive. So moving on, we have the rest of the week to give our picks. This is probably my favorite segment because I have a lot of bold ones. So the first one is the Giants versus the 49ers. 49ers had 13 players hurt at the end of week 2. Now, granted, 2 of those players are probably going to start in week 1, one of them being Nick Bosa, I believe, and I can't remember who the other one was. I have the Giants pulling off with the win over them only because 49ers have so many people hurt. It's not even funny. And Giants are the home team. They were complaining about how messed up the turf is over there. Do you agree with my statement, or do you have the 49ers?
I agree with the Giants winning. For the 49ers, it's kind of like going back to the scene of the crime where you had a nightmare full of injuries. Luckily, you have Garoppolo back at quarterback. He's kind of
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they said he's going to start with a knee injury, but he's starting. I don't think he'll be at 100%. You got Daniel Jones on New York's side who is healthy, and I think that matters a lot, even though they don't have Barkley.
We'll get Robert Vader. We'll get to your comment in a second when we cover over the Chargers. This next matchup, we have the Washington football team against the Cleveland Browns. I think it's just going to be a defensive battle. I only have Browns to win this one because I think Browns have the weapons that have better weapons than Washington does. Do you agree with that?
I do, but I don't think Washington's going to make this easy. I think everybody will be surprised if they come out with a victory against Cleveland. But you do have I can't think of their names. OBJ and Baker Mayfield, who are probably of those 2 teams, probably the talented duo during that game. And they got a big win last Thursday. And I think that's going to ride their momentum heading into this week.
So this next matchup is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I already said my pick on Tuesday. I said that Cincinnati was going to win against Philadelphia. That's because Carson Wentz was sacked 8 times. Now, I get it. It was week 1. This was not as bad heading against the Rams. I get that. But a lot of players were hurt. And so I'm going to say Cincinnati over Philadelphia. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if you think I am wrong. Do you?
No. Having too many injuries kind of hurts you, literally and figuratively. You don't have a lot of your key players, and the opposing team might take that as an advantage. And if they are playing with injuries, they could seriously take that player out of the game by targeting them at those injury points.
Yeah, that was just crazy. So that was my first. That was my first upset that I have this week. The second one is this next matchup: Las Vegas Raiders against the New England Patriots. And I've said this over and over and over and over and over again. I do not trust Cam Newton, especially since the last 9 games he has only won. No, last 10 games, excuse me. Last 10 games he only won 2 weeks ago against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, do you trust Cam Newton in the offense that he is now? I get it's an entirely different team, but Julian Edelman might not be playing because he's questionable return. The Raiders, they do have an impressive win against the Saints, which again I predicted the Raiders over the Saints. Raiders, I think, is going to be a surprise team this year. Do you agree with that?
I do. I feel like they played. Raiders played really well Monday night against New Orleans. New England's pretty good with Cam Newton. I don't think they're the team that they were when Brady was there. Um, but they seem pretty solid. We've known now that Belichick can win with any quarterback. It's not a fluke when he had uh, Garoppolo and a couple other quarterbacks when Brady was either hurt or suspended. But having Edelman not out there, you're going to have to rely on Cam Newton's running ability probably more than you've had before. Like in week 1, you're probably going to have to go back to that next week or this coming week if you want to win that game. I kind of see the Raiders winning that one.
The next matchup is the Chicago Bears versus the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta put 20 points against Dallas in the first quarter. They came back, they scored 19 after that. But Dallas ended up pulling the comeback and winning this game 40-39. Now, I know you're a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, so how was that game for you?
That was great. No one, I watched with my mom and dad, and they both thought that they weren't going to win. I felt like they were going to win somehow. They're going to pull it out. They pulled it out with that onside kick and pulled off probably a big victory, one they haven't had in a long time. A lot of people on social media were kind of mocking Atlanta, saying they blew another lead like they did in the Super Bowl a few years back. But I think heading into this week, they might have a better chance.
Yeah, I totally agree that they're playing against the Bears. I mean, not a lot of people trust in Mitchell Trubisky other than the diehard Bears fans out there, which I don't think he's gonna pull off against the win against the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they might be that crazy in the fourth quarter and not score anything, and they might score 20 in the first. Who knows? But I don't think the Bears have the weapons that Dallas has. I'm going to say this one's going to be 36-20, maybe.
Yeah. I would.
The next matchup is the Buffalo Bills against the Los Angeles Rams. I said in the show earlier, before this one, that this game is going to be the second best game this week. 2-0 versus a 2-0 team. The Los Angeles Rams, they have pulled off a win against Dallas, which I expected that. And they pulled off a win against the Eagles, which, other than the Eagles fans out there, probably everyone expected that. So I have Buffalo in this one because of how well Josh Allen has been doing in the past couple of games. And Robert Leader says my Bills prevail. I think that the Bills are going to win this one. I'm gonna say I think 40-30.
Yeah, I would think Buffalo's going to win this game. You have a talented wide receiver in Beasley. You got Allen at quarterback. I think Bills will definitely win against the Rams. Rams doesn't have Gurley this time. He's in Atlanta, and you have Jared Goff. He's kind of up and down throughout his career. After the Super Bowl, he's kind of gone downhill. But maybe he'll come back this week. I mean, he won't win, but maybe he'll come back.
So the next matchup is the Houston Texans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh, they hanged on. They only won against Denver by 5 points. And Denver, Drew Lock was hurt pretty early in that game. Now, Houston, they played against the two toughest teams in the league. They pulled off, they have that. I think this one, I still have Pittsburgh winning, but I think it's going to be closer than people expect. I say 23-22.
I'm thinking maybe a 2-point score, maybe 30-27. Pittsburgh, I want Houston to win. I feel like they need a win, but when you're playing Pittsburgh, they kind of don't take no for an answer in a way. They really want to win this game. Ben Roethlisberger wants to win this game. He wasn't playing last year. He's missed the game, and he really wants to find his groove again. I think they're going to win this game.
Now, I have two questions about the Pittsburgh versus Houston before we move on to the next matchup, which is Chargers versus it's Titans and Vikings. The first one is they allowed Denver, which had a backup quarterback, play throughout most of that game. They allowed Denver to score 2 touchdowns, and I think two touchdowns, one of them being an extra point and a field goal. Do you think Pittsburgh's defense is going to be as good as they were last year?
I think so. I think when you're playing in Pittsburgh, it's one of those teams that have a strong defense multiple years. Kind of like how the Patriots have a strong offense. I mean, not now, but back then they had a strong offense with Tom Brady at quarterback. If you have a good defensive player with Pittsburgh, um, I think they do have a strong defense. It showed the last few games, uh, and I think it'll continue this week.
Robert Leader says Steelers by 3, which we all say it's going to be pretty close. So the next question I have before we move on to Tennessee versus Minnesota, Tennessee versus Minnesota. You know, a lot of people were hurt in the first 3 weeks because I even saw a couple players off the Jaguars that got hurt. So tennis. So are you, with a lack of a better term, are you scared that Ben Roethlisberger might be one of those players that gets hurt in week 3? Or concern, or is more of an appropriate term?
I am. Anytime you have a quarterback going off of injury, like he did, and you were out for the entire year, uh, not only is he nervous to get back out there and not only to perform, but not to get hurt.
Mm.
Maybe he kind of misses some throws, especially if he's getting hit at to the point where he has to get that ball out really quick and has to force an incompletion or even worse, an interception. I'd be worried for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers.
Okay. The next matchup, we have the Tennessee Titans versus the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota has the home team. I have Tennessee in this one. Tennessee scored 33 points against Jacksonville. They scored 16 against Denver. I have Tennessee in this one, but this is the first game that I actually don't think will be close. I think Minnesota loses this one by 15 at least. Do you agree?
I do pick Tennessee, but you have two teams that really want to win. You have Tennessee, who has Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry at running back, who have been two of the top players since they were in the playoffs last year. And Tannehill started midway through 2019. And then you have Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, who are, I mean, they're a good team, but they're 0-2 this year. They're chomping at the bit to win a football game this year in 2020. Although they lost some key players in Diggs and a couple others during free agency and signing off waivers, they're missing key pieces that they have to fill. I think it's going to be close, but Tennessee will probably win the game.
Now, if Tennessee wins this one, even by a little bit, would this game show you that trading away Stephon Diggs was a bad idea?
I would. I would say so. I mean, he's good in Dallas from what I could see. I mean, it's only been 2 games compared to his many years in Minnesota, who he played with really well. But yeah, I would think so. And then you have Tennessee, who many fans might think, yeah, we have a good quarterback. I don't know why Miami traded him off. He just needed a few more years to get, used to the league. He's playing really well now that he's with Tennessee.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull this comment up again because the next matchup is the Chargers versus the Carolina Panthers. Tyrod Taylor is hurt. Carolina has Chris McCaffrey is hurt. This is going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be their backup. I'm blanking on his name right now. And it's going to be interesting matchup. Like I said, they don't have Justin Herbert. They have Justin Herbert. Who's going to be playing that game. I originally had Carolina in this one, but I forgot about Christian McCaffrey, who was hurt. I don't know why, but I just did. I'm gonna say Chargers won this one 25-21.
Chargers are running a high right now in that, yeah, they did lose, but you're close to winning against a Super Bowl champion. That area in California will go crazy if the Chargers would have won that game. Maybe to them it felt like a moral victory, and I think this week they'll get that victory that they really need in 2020.
Okay. This next matchup is the New York Jets have an away game against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, as we brought up earlier with the 49ers, the 49ers had 13 hurt players towards the end of that game. The 49ers, that 13 players, and yet the Jets, they only scored 17 points off of a bunch of backups and third strings. I have the Colts winning this one easily. Do you agree?
I do, and if the New York Jets want to win a game, I think they might have to bench Darnold if they really want to win a football game. If they don't, they might want to keep losing, kind of like what Miami did last year, and get like a Chase Young in the draft. But yeah, I see Indianapolis winning.
So our next, we have 5 more matchups to go. Our next matchup is Dallas Cowboys having a away game against the Seattle Seahawks. Now I'm gonna say, since Dallas is your favorite team, you go first. What's your pick?
I don't think there's fans in the stand. Normally, it's a problem for other opponents to go into Seattle's territory and to win a game. It won't be as loud because of the crowd noise that they're going to pump in to the stadium. It won't be as loud. It'll be loud. I think that's hurt Seattle a little bit. We've played with it a couple times, and I know they have as well. If there were a whole crowd in there, I would say Seattle wins it. But knowing that both teams will play with the same crowd of pretty much no one in there, maybe Dallas has a chance. I'm going with Dallas.
So I'm gonna go with Seattle. Now here's why. Seattle, if this was last year's Seattle team, then I would agree with you. I think Dallas would win. But they added an addition of Jamal Adams, which I think has helped a lot, that Seattle team a lot this year. I'm gonna say Seattle wins this one, but I think it's gonna be by 7 points. Okay, so moving on, we have the Detroit Lions playing an away game against the Arizona Cardinals.
I would.
Yeah, who do you have?
I would go Arizona. Normally I would go with Matt Stafford and the Lions if that was last year's matchup, but because of Murray being a rookie quarterback, now he's looking like a 3-4 year pro. Kyle Murray is. I think Matt Stafford and the Lions won't know what hit him, and I'm going with Arizona.
So the interesting thing is that uh, if I remember the stat correctly, I think Matthew Stafford is the first quarterback to blow 4 consecutive double-digit leads. If I remember that stat correctly. Now, last time these two teams played, it was a tie. Kyler Murray had one heck of a fourth quarter. But Kyler Murray last year didn't have DeAndre Hopkins. And, as you mentioned, he was a rookie last year. He's not this year. He's a sophomore. He's been having a better year the past couple of games than he did last year. I'm going to go with Arizona. So, we have 3 more matchups to go. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that play an away game against the Denver Broncos. This one, I think the Bucs are going to win this one, but I think it'll be close, and here's why. Denver has the home field advantage, and Tom Brady has always struggled. I think they've won, out of their last 7 games, they've only won 4 of those at Denver. I have Tampa Bay winning this one. I'm going to say 38-20. No, flip that. 30-28.
Maybe it's a lower scoring game. It is hard to play in Denver. Denver has an advantage of
That's true.
playing in altitude. Tom Brady's not. He's used to being either in New England, Florida, or sometimes California, maybe in the off season. But I don't think he's used to the altitude. Not that he's played there much. It's going to be a struggle for him and his team to go up there. I got Denver winning that game, maybe by 6 points.
You know, it's so hard to play against, and it's so hard to play football in Denver. Even Drew Lock struggles at cold games. He's had 2 snow games his entire career, high school, college, pro combined. If Drew Lock was playing that game, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I can understand if Drew Lock would do worse if they started Drew Lock this season, this matchup.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but I could see either way happening. I have Bucs winning by 2. Next to matchup, you have the Carolina Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans has the home team. I have not Carolina. I said Carolina. Green Bay versus New Orleans. I have Green Bay in this one. Because Aaron Rodgers put like 40 points in both of the previous 2 matchups. And that was higher than Kansas City and Baltimore. I have Green Bay in this one, but I have Green Bay winning by a lot. I say 40-28.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is going to put up another 40 points on the board. But I think maybe Green Bay's strategy during the draft was to make Aaron Rodgers angry, draft a quarterback, and just say, go play. If it was, it's working.
Maybe the only reason why they drafted Jordan Love was to make Aaron Rodgers angry. Oh my gosh, Freddie, if you're watching this, please respond to Chris's comment. So yeah, Saints don't have Michael Thomas. Packers have, a really good team. Well, final game is the Monday night game. It's a game that all of us have been hoping for. The Baltimore Ravens have a home field advantage against the Kansas City Chiefs. I say Baltimore loses this one 48-44.
Yeah, Baltimore does lose it. I mean, both teams put up a lot of points. They go back and forth. Baltimore was close to being in the Super Bowl last year. Pat Mahomes took that away from them, went to the Super Bowl, won it. Both of them were on Madden covers. Both of them won MVP. I think Mahomes will win this.
Yeah, that was it. That was to wrap this up. Chris, give your final 30-second thought, either about tonight's game or about this week, or about fantasy.
Oh, this week's going to be an interesting lineup of games tonight. Even though you had two teams that were kind of on the bubble of winning and losing, it was a pretty good game. Even though Jacksonville lost it, it was still pretty entertaining.
Yeah, that was an amazing matchup. I had Jacksonville winning this one. So because I had Jacksonville winning this one, I will eat another Oreo because it's pie flavored Oreo. It's all kind of a joke.
Right.
So this has been yet another episode of the Thursday night post game show. Thank you, everyone, especially Robert Leader, for commenting. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, J-Mac, for coming on. And this is Nate the Great signing off.